think that life happens for us, not to us, but it's our job to figure it out. I think everything happens for a reason. I think there's a higher purpose. I think it's my job to find it. You could do the right thing at the wrong time and you get pain. And 3 of the 4 seasons are the wrong time. Most of us think we're having our own thoughts. Most of our thoughts have been primed by the environment. The 3 most important skills in life now are the ones that allow you to learn more rapidly. You know, when you think about framing, I look at framing as three. I call pre-framing and reframing and deframing. Most people are familiar with the reframing. Reframing is you came up with a meaning and it's not so good. And so now you're going to change it, or you want to do it with someone else. You're going to influence someone and they have this negative frame and you're going to reframe them. That's a lot harder than pre-framing. Pre-framing is, well, I'll tell you a sample story to make it simple. Pre-framing is getting someone to focus on something, knowing in advance what you're going to focus on and giving it a meaning in advance before it happens. That's a lot easier than after it's happened. Because after it's happened, you have a meaning locked in to some extent, especially if it's something that's painful, right? So I'll give you a simplistic example. I remember one day I went and I lived in San Diego, California, and I have a helicopter and I was flying up to LA and I love flying. And that morning I got out and I had a couple cars to choose from and I chose this little Corvette I had in those days. Wind in my hair, I'm going to have fun. I drive, I fly to LA. I did this TV show and landed on the roof. It was so much fun. I didn't even have to go to the airport and flew back. And I was just like in euphoria, having a blast, you know. It was actually Bill Maher when he used to do his program up in LA. And then I got in the car, you know, and it's getting dark and I'm driving and sure enough, I'm incorrect about things. The last minute, I traded out the car. That's right. My wife needed the car, so I traded out for the BMW 750iL. Why does that matter? So I'm driving home. The helicopter ride, that's not dangerous. I'm on the road, you know, long winding road from the airport to the main freeway area. And I come to the stoplight and I'm on the phone chatting as I'm waiting and on the speakerphone. And all of a sudden I see these lights are coming really fast. And so then they get so fast, I was like, oh my God, is this guy going to brake? And before I could finish thinking the thought, at 65 miles an hour, the guy hits me from behind. He fell asleep at the wheel, right? So I can remember everything in slow motion. You know, in those days, they had to, you know, your tape deck in there and it went flying past my head in slow motion. And I mean, everything changes when you're in that kind of an experience. I'm sure if you've ever experienced, you know what I mean? And all I remember is waking up and the fire people extracting me out of the other side of the car. And they're like, want to take me to the hospital? And I was like, no, I'll see my chiropractor in the morning. And then I woke up the next morning, I couldn't move. It was pretty rough. But the reason I tell you this story is eventually I got well and I need to go buy another car. Well, I never had the criteria before of safety. But that car, everyone told me that car saved your life. So why did I tell you that? So I go looking for a car. So I thought, you know, this BMW, that was a damn good car, but I want another sports car. I'm going to get another 750iL, but let me get a sports car to replace that Corvette. That, you know, I want something that's sturdy and so forth. So the guy took me, whatever it was, 325i's, whatever they were calling those days. I forget what it was, you know, stick shift. And he said, yeah, now he got me in the car and he said, now before we go out, I want to tell you, I'm going to take you on this winding road. It's amazing. And, you know, this is the ultimate driving machine. He said, it's not like your 750iL. Your 750iL, you don't feel the damn thing. He goes, when you get in this car and you shift into it, he goes, we drop into it, you'll feel the wheels catch into it and grab it. He said, you'll see this is the ultimate car. So what's he doing? He's pre-framing me because we're going to go through a construction area that's all beat up, right? So we go in the construction area and at 750, I wouldn't have felt anything, right? Just boom, smoother, but it was, and it's bouncing around. And even though I know what he just did, my brain's like, yeah, it is really digging in, right? You know, if he had tried to tell me after I'd done that, I would have thought, that's a piece of car because he pre-framed me. So I pre-frame myself. And the way I do it, I call priming. You're familiar with the principle of priming, right? So most of us think we're having our own thoughts. Most of our thoughts have been primed by the environment. So an example would be they did a study at Harvard where they took 4 actors, 2 men, 2 women. They had them rehearse doing the exact same presentation. And you'd be in a mall or a coffee shop or something, and they'd walk up to you, and they had a coffee in their hand, and they go, could you hold this for me for a second? And then they look down. They don't wait for you to say yes. And 98% of people take the coffee and they take out their phone, did something, and they say, thank you so much. And that's the whole interaction. But they rehearse the same facial expressions, the same movements. Everybody's the same. They go out and they do this. one variable. Half the people, they gave them hot coffee. Half the other people, they gave iced coffee. 15 minutes later, somebody comes by with a little checkboard here. And they go, excuse me, I have $20 here. There's no scam here. We have this really important study. We're under a tight timeline. Would you give us 1 minute of your time for $20? You just read these 3 paragraphs of the story and answer these 2 questions. They read the story, and then the question is, how would you describe the main character of the story? How would you describe them? Well, interestingly, the people that given hot coffee, 81% said the person was warm and genuine. The people that given iced coffee said the person was cold and uncaring, and it's the exact same story, the exact same ratios, 81 versus 80%, just to give you an idea. All they did was 15 minutes earlier have something that framed them, as you would say, right? So it happens all the time. It happens, if they did a study where they took IBM and they took Apple, and they did a little creativity test for someone, and they did 2 things. They'd have them look at the IBM logo and then take the test, or the Apple logo, and then they did their commercials. And a commercial for Apple back in those days, you was think differently, right? 22% higher score if they looked at either the Apple logo or the commercial on the exact same test, no other criteria difference, to give you an idea. So you can test so many things in this area. So I get up every morning, and my first discipline, I'm not a meditator per se. I don't know anybody good at not having any thoughts. But I thought, I want to prime myself. That's my goal. So I do a breathing pattern, like a, breath of fire type of thing to change my physiology for just 2 minutes. And then I do 3 things, and I do it for just 10 minutes. Because my view is, if you don't have 10 minutes for your life, you don't have a life. And I want to prime myself so whatever comes into this world, I have the best chance of handling it really well. And I'm training my nervous system. What's the emotion I want to train? Gratitude. Why? We all know the 2 emotions that destroy your relationship, your business, your life, it's fear and anger. Those are 2 extremes. You can't be grateful and fearful simultaneously. You can't be angry and grateful simultaneously. So what I do is I start my day, I make those changes, and I close my eyes or I look out at the water and I think of 3 things that I'm grateful for just a minute each. But I don't think of it like over there, like if you've ever been on a roller coaster and I ask you what it's like, some people remembered it over there. No, I remember it like I'm in the front seat going over the edge, because then you get the authentic biochemical changes. So I'm there and I do 2 strong things, and usually 1 simple thing, like the wind in my hair or my daughter's smile or something of that nature. So I don't just get wired for unbelievable things, but that primes that nervous system. And then the second thing I do is I take 3 minutes, and it's kind of like a blessing or a prayer for the people around me, for the people I love. I start close, I send it out there. And there's been a lot of studies I'm sure you've read that Dalai Lama and others have done on compassion for strangers, what it does to your brain. And so I do it every day. And then the last 3 minutes I call 3 to Thrive, where I focus for a minute each on something I really want to make happen. But I don't sit there and pray for it, hope for it. It's like I give thanks for it as it's done. I see it as done. I experience it as done. I wire my reticular activating system. I can speak in shorthand to you about this. So now it's going to notice anything that relates to that, but it has a joyous feeling to it as well. And I'm done in 10 minutes, and I'm ready to rock and roll. So, I do my cold plunge, and I do the parts of my normal daily ritual, but that one I do. And then I'll have like 60 seconds, of joy, or 60 seconds of peace that I'll do in the middle of the day, and I'll just think of one of those things if I want to reactivate it. But that pre-frames me. But then I also have certain beliefs. We all have beliefs that pre-frame you or not. And one of the core beliefs I developed over the years was just that I think everything happens for a reason. I think there's a higher purpose. I think it's my job to find it. I think that life happens for us, not to us, but it's our job to figure it out. A lot of times I feel like something's happening to me. So I'll give you an example. It's like not being fed as a child. I've fed, 10 years ago, I decided I'd been feeding people my whole life since I was 17, 2 people, 4, 8. I built up a couple million people a year. My foundation fed 2 million. I fed 2 million. And then I was writing this book, Money Master the Game, and I'm interviewing Ray Dalio and Carl Icahn and Warren Buffett and, all these multi-billionaires. And Congress had just cut food stamps, which they call the SNAP program now, by $6 billion. It means every family would have to give up a week's worth of food unless people like you and I showed up. So I called my team and I said, how many people have fed in my lifetime? And they said 42 million. And I was like, wow, I was thrilled. It wasn't the number I knew. And I said, what if I did that in a year? What What if I did as much as I've done in my whole life in a year, 50 million? And what if I did 100 million a year? What if I did 100 million a year for 10 years and did 1 billion meals? And I did it in 8 years with Partnership Through Feeding America. And it's like, when you do that, when you produce a result that seemed impossible, then what's next gets even bigger and even more available, right? It just expands. You're pre-framed to be able to do even more versus reframe. And so now, because of the war in the Ukraine, most people don't realize it's the breadbasket for Africa. So there's about 11 nations that are on the verge of famine. You'll never hear about it in the news. No one cares. And then you need fertilizer. 50% of the world food supply comes from fertilizer. The WF doesn't want you to use it because of the environment, but you need it. And it's in Russia and it's been cut off. So I talked to Governor David Beasley, who's head of the World Food Program. Brilliant guy. Actually, MBS put us together one day. He said, you two are feeding the most people I know. I want to put you together. And I said, how big is the problem? And he said, Tony, normally you'd be in a position where, maybe there's, 8 million people that are on the verge of starvation. He goes, this year it's 350 million. And he goes, and no one's doing anything about it. And I said, so how many meals would we need over the next 10 years to make the transition till we get sustainability? He said, you need 10 years. I said, what would it be? And he said, I don't know, Tony, maybe 50, 60, 70 billion meals. I said, let's do a 100 billion meal challenge over the next 10 years. I said, I did 1 billion. I wasn't a billionaire when I started, but I have 5 kids and 5 grandkids, right? So I have a 52-year-old daughter, and I have thanks to COVID, a 4-year-old daughter. So COVID was good to me. I was home. So I look at especially my grandkids and my daughter, and I say, they're entering a world that none of us have known before. And so how do I arm them for it? And the answer is a couple of things. Number one, I have to teach them not to do what most people in the world do. Most people you talk to, even quote successful people, whatever that means, they're stressed all the time. Stress. I'm so stressed. You hear people talk about stress all the time. It's like they argue about who's more stressed. And I look at that and go, why are they stressed? And the answer is because they're managing their life. We're not made to manage circumstances. We're made to create. We were created by something. Call it your creator, call it the universe, call it God, whatever you want to call it. And we were made to create. And when we create, we're alive. When we just try to maintain or manage or hold on to something, if we're just caught up in making a living instead of designing a life is, and that's why so many people have so many challenges. So I'm teaching my kids to be creators, and I teach them the second piece, the most important thing I believe that's made me successful. And anyone I've ever interviewed, you interviewed 1 million people, you see if you agree or disagree with me. The 3 most important skills in life now are the ones that allow you to learn more rapidly. If you learn rapidly, you can win no matter what happens with the technology. And what are those 3 skills? Number 1, the skill of pattern recognition. When you can recognize patterns, you eliminate fear. Fear comes from, this has never happened before. I don't know what this is. Chaos. Like I hear people all the time talk about how we've never been this place politically. We're here in America. We're going to have a civil war. And they don't do any history whatsoever. I have these 2 placards that I have, because back then they didn't have ads, right? They had placards. And one is from Thomas Jefferson talking about Adams, and one from Adams about Jefferson. And they said stuff that made Republicans and Democrats look like they're nice to each other. I mean, it's just unbelievable that stuff they said. This is a cycle. And so when you recognize a pattern, it gives you power, potential power at least. The first power is you're not afraid anymore. You go, no, this is not something that's never happened. This is not something that's I can see this. I can see how this has been dealt with. What took us from living in fear, from being hunter-gatherers or trying to survive every day, didn't know if we're going to survive every day, to being able to stay in one place? What pattern recognition?
I was going to say the seasons, but...
You got it.
Really?
That's it, the seasons. I figured you got it. The seasons, because before that, you could do the right thing at the wrong time, and you get pain. And 3 of the 4 seasons are the wrong time. So once we figured out, oh my God, if I plant in the spring and I take care of it through the hot summer, I get this big reaping. And if I hang on to some of it to make it through the winter, I can live here. I don't have to worry. All my fear disappears. So the minute we understood seasons, it changed humanity. And by the way, there's the seasons to your life. You could say 0 to 21 is springtime. Springtime, how hard is it for something to grow in springtime? If you start a business in an economic spring where everybody's optimistic, you think you're a genius, you're just in the right season, right? So 0 to 21, you're taken care of. And that season, you grow like crazy. Somewhere around in roughly, and everyone's different. 21, 22 years old. You go to the next stage, 22 to 42, and that's your summertime. That's the testing period of your life. What happens? You are 21, you've heard all this stuff, and now you go, you know what? I don't know if I believe this bullshit. I want to see what I believe. I'm going to test. All history, all studies of psychology show this is the most difficult time in most people's lives, right? 22 to 42. So if you're in that range and you're listening, I love you. Hang in there.